Welcome to Everyday Entrepreneurs Everywhere with your host, Chris Parker.
And welcome back to Everyday Entrepreneurs Everywhere. Today I'm having a conversation with a number of people, and all of these people have in fact been on the podcast before. And you can almost connect the conversations we had on the podcast to the coming together of this group to have, created and delivered a method about sustainability. So I have Jessica van Beek from Cuba, I've got Simon Broad from Circulus Works, and I have Wim Lubberson from Cape Seasons Consulting, in addition to his bed and breakfast empire that you would be able to hear on his other podcast. So we are all coming together because really inspired by the possibility of finding maybe better, faster ways to help people think about sustainability. Now, what I loved about this is we used the ebullient simplicity scan and the 5 steps to simplicity and basically ported that into a completely different sort of use case. Now, thanks everyone for joining. I would remind those that are listening to know about who these people are and why they're doing what they're doing. To go back to the previous episodes that really go into them as individuals, and now we're here all together talking about sustainability. So, Jessica, I really attribute this convergence to your having used the simplicity scan and having conversations with your teams, and in that conversation, what turns out to be a really cool idea emerged. So can you help us out a little bit with how did we get here?
Yeah, how did we get here? Yes. So we actually did the simplicity scan for Cuba and for Bijenbaas, which is another company owned by Wouter. And we did both. And after we did that, and we were really excited about the way of working with that, we actually, because we are also beekeepers and putting bees hives on roofs of company buildings, became a natural people to talk about sustainability for those companies. And since we also have a consultancy background, for us it was normal to talk about that and that kind of stuff. And eventually we were like, okay, well, if we are the persons to talk about sustainability, maybe we should do something with that. So when we did the simplicity scan, we actually talked to you, Chris, about why don't we make a sustainability scan with the simplicity scan. So that's what we did. And then all of a sudden, there was a client.
Yeah, it went from there. It all gets sort of mixed up in my mind as far as the exact timelines, but there was sort of an idea and then a scan and then a sprint. So let's imagine it went in that elegant timeline. Of course, it was all mixed up in there. Conversations started and we started ideating, and let's get to the validation outreach after we talk about the scan and the sprint, because that's what actually resulted in the first customer, and we'll talk about that first project that we've ran before the end of this. So, Mr. Simon, the sustainability scan was already being sort of evolved when you learned about it and got connected to it, and essentially that was taking the simplicity version and pouring the world of sustainability on it. So can you share a little bit how did we port one framework into another that still kept its structure and its meaning and its value? How did you experience that?
Yeah, no, absolutely. So I had the pleasure and privilege to get to use the simplicity scan in reality at Power Peers with you, Chris, and a couple of other colleagues, and I really liked it, and especially the way it kind of created a non-threatening situation which forced alignment between different people in the management team, and really faced us all with the right questions. They're simple questions, but they are the right questions. And obviously, Chris, I'm passionate about sustainability. So when I heard that you were looking at adapting this simplicity scan for a sustainability kind of situation, I was very, very keen to jump in and help. And for me, it's still very much that same tool where it's about creating alignment, and it's about making all the different components in the business join up and work together. It doesn't seem right to consider sustainability as an add-on. Then you're just tacking something on the side of a business, and it's more of a distraction. But it really needs to be from the ground up, and the whole business needs to understand that that's a key component. So I think it's a very, very powerful tool from that point of view. And it's just great to be able to work on that, and indeed, as Jessica said, quickly get a customer and really be able to use it in the real world.
I have a bit of a trick question, and the question is, what is sustainability? Because the way Cuba, meaning Jessica and the team, already had some research done and some analysis done, like around the UN SDGs, the Global Sustainability Development Goals. But I think we kept it even a bit more broad, because sustainability can mean different things to different organizations. So, Simon, what is your definition of sustainability?
Yeah, so I like this, and this is an old definition, and it goes back, I think, certainly 40 years, maybe 50 years, and it's about being able to do what we do in the world, but not impairing the ability of future generations to do what they need to do. Now, that's a great concept. But it's obviously open to a lot of interpretation, but it's a good starting point to start making choices and decisions.
Great. Yeah, I think what we've also tried to do is sort of, again, simplify it down to the essence of that, as opposed to have these big structures and try to find these straightforward questions, maybe not easy questions, but direct questions nonetheless. So Wim Lubberson, and Wim, of course, is in South Africa, and I've worked with him for many years as a strategy consultant, and then he went into the hospitality space, and now has connected some of those dots and have come back to this in the structure of the sprint. And for me, for the last couple of years, I've been running discussions around simplicity with what I called it like a 5 steps to simplicity. So either with individual entrepreneurs or business owners or small teams. And it seemed that the world was asking for something more structured, that like an enterprise class management team or professionals in a corporation could benefit from. And then that's where we started working and improving that, and Wim's structure and insight and guidance on that. So Wim, how did you experience the crafting of the actual 5-day sprint method?
Yeah, it was for me. It was good fun, first of all. But and part of the fun had to do with the fact that I like making something structured out of something unstructured. That can be a method, or it can be a customer question or something like that. Maybe a few words about what we crafted. What we designed is a program which are 5 steps, and each step takes about half a day. And ideally, you do it within a time span of about 10 days. So every other day you have a workshop. Ideally, you do it with a group of people in a room or a team. In this case, and for this client, we're going to talk about, we had about 10 people in the room. And the first 2 steps are about, where are you at the moment? What do you want to achieve with sustainability? What did you already do? what things do you have in place. And then on day 3 or step 3, things flip. You're not going to look at the current situation, but you're going to ask yourself, okay, but what can I achieve? What do I need to achieve? So we're talking more about opportunities. We use all kinds of brainstorm tools to facilitate that. And then the last 2 days are basically about decision making. So what are you really going to do after this? And day 5 is a very special day because that's the day that the team is going to present it to an executive, which hides the tension a bit, makes it a bit more serious. And the people leave the room with a roadmap, with the things they are going to do, with the results of the workshop. So 1 million ideas and more insight and also some sort of alignment between each other. So that's one of the strengths, I think, from this design, that you don't sit in a room with 2 people and write something down and have to sell it to the whole team. But basically the whole team creates this in the 5 steps. So that's how the sprint process works. And in this case we had it was the first time we're going to talk about it, but I think we can conclude that the whole design works and that also people loved it. It was quite exciting because when you're sitting together and you think, oh, this is going to work like this and people will respond to this like that, you never know if it's going to happen. But I think for 70%, the things that we imagined would go like we thought out, they really happened. So that was part of the fun.
And crafting the fun, we weren't sure that this enterprise sort of method would work. So we ran, this is a question back for you, Wim. And then Simon, I'm going to ask you about mindset, and Jessica, then I'm going to ask you about this validation that we sent out to the market, and that resulted in the Van Oord case. So Wim, we did some test sessions using the Miro board, and for me, it was really a comfort, and I have to give Jessica full credit for the, hey, we should test this. That was a great thing. And then we had some people that were not from the same company for a couple evenings into 2 of the steps, and we learned so much. So Wim, can you share a little bit about how we tested this, and maybe off the top of your head, and what we learned that improved it through the testing?
Yeah, what we did with the testing was invite friends and family to join us for the test. They came from all kind of companies, also from all parts of the world. So that was really interesting. They didn't know each other, and what we tested was the whole design. But most of all, what we tested was, are we ready for it? Can we cope with uncertainties? Can we cope with things we don't expect? Looking back at the test, I think that these tests gave us the confidence that we could handle it and that the design was solid. And from the participants' view, we got a couple of people coming back to us that they really learned a lot from it, and it helped them to bring them further in their work and in their solving their issues.
We got incredible feedback. One person who essentially maybe didn't pivot the whole program, but Martin Lenz Fitzgerald restructured one of his whole projects based on the insights. And it was kind of funny because he said, I would never have asked for this, but thank God it came when it did. And we do have in our mind that maybe there's a non-enterprise version, but maybe it's a senior experienced version for people from different organizations. And what I loved about it is I think we got over 150 specific feedback points that we could consider for improvement. And then after the last, the actual sprint we ran, I think there's another 130 or more feedback points of the continuous learning. So one of the things that we didn't know how to do, and was one of the foundations, the 3 pillars of the scan to create momentum, is the mindset, actions, and risks. And we weren't really sure how to solve the mindset dimension of this in an enterprise format. because when you're doing one-on-one coaching, you can be very specific and dive into it. But as far as a repeatable, scalable approach, and Simon, you pulled out from your experience in I think the academy leadership academies that you've participated in, and came out with what turned out to be so far a brilliant solution to it, even though we had to adapt it greatly. So can you share a little bit the inspiration and how you adapted that approach?
Sure. So this mindset component is I think very important in this journey through the 5 workshops, because we want the participants, when they leave, not to just feel like they've done some brain work and come out with an answer, and but it really needs to live. And so we wanted to address the attitudes and maybe unspoken assumptions that people have about the environment they're working in, which might make them believe that something will be difficult or won't fly in the way that it's envisaged, or that it's only for show, or all these things. It's good to get them out in the open. So I look back a few years ago. I was at the Think School of Creative Leadership, and was lucky to be taught by Karim Benamar, who has spent a lot of his career on reframing techniques. And the idea is you can use fairly established techniques to explore your attitudes and ideas and come up with a framework of thought, which is maybe not one that comes naturally to you, but which does help to get you in the right frame of mind to make a success of the thing that you want to do. And so I picked up on that, and as Chris said, we needed to adapt it, and I think we'll continue adapting it. But it's definitely a powerful technique to include in this kind of exercise, where you really want to make something stick, not only on paper but in the minds and the hearts of the people.
And Simon, there's a book on reframing. I'll put the link into the show notes for this, and also the author has some videos that are available online to explain it. But when in preparation for this, you had a conversation with them about how to adapt it. Is there any highlight points that came from that conversation?
I think the key point I would make is that you can build all kinds of techniques around it, but what the core of all of this is identifying the underlying assumptions that you have about something, and then just reversing them and taking that reverse to the extreme. So that can take you to an uncomfortable place, and it should be an uncomfortable experience. If you find it easy, then you're probably not doing it right. So that's a bit of a warning for anybody that wants to take this set of workshops with us. There will be some discomfort,
some intellectual discomfort. Yeah. For people listening, we went from simplicity to sustainability to mindset to reframing to discomfort. And what I love about the last couple of months of preparing is all of these different perspectives we've brought together into basically a method that people can follow in order to challenge their own assumptions around sustainability and achievability of sustainability. So one of the outcomes of the Van Oord project was, I think they thought this was going to be very hard. And then by the end of it, they were like, why aren't we doing this? This is imminently achievable. And but we'll talk about that in a second. So, and now, basically how, in commercial terms, how did we win the Van Oord deal? One of the things I really insist with people when I'm coaching on the simplicity scan is before you, particularly with a startup or a new product or some sort of pivot, to really validate the concept before you start building and investing. And the way that I like to recommend, one way to validate is take left side of the simplicity scan, so a purpose, customer, product, journey, mindset, and just take those answers and put them on 5 slides with some pictures in the background, and doesn't even have to be perfect, but then share that with people who could be a buyer. And it could be an imaginary buyer, not someone like your father or mother who loves you and they'll say everything's perfect, but someone out in the real world that can say, yeah, this is shite, or this is interesting. And we decided to do that, and we sent it out. And Jessica, can you explain the process of going from, hey, this might be an idea, doing some work, documenting a bit the concept, putting it out to market, and then we were not ready, and they said yes. So, how did that whole journey go? Because it was, it happened pretty fast.
Yeah, it did actually. Yeah, so it was one of my colleagues who was talking to a manager of Van Oort, which is a dredging company, and they also do windmills. She was just having a catch up with him, and all of a sudden, he asked her, so what is Cuba doing, since Cuba's always doing something else? And then she said, well, yeah, one of my colleagues, Jessica, she's doing something with a team around sustainability. And he was like, oh, that's interesting. Can you tell more about it? She was like, no, I can't, because I don't know. But I can refer to Jessica, and you can have a conversation with her. So we talked to him and Martin, also one of the managers of the IT department of Van Oort. And he actually said that he was at one of the sustainability days of Van Oort. And he was the only IT guy being there. And he was like, wow, this is amazing, and we're doing amazing stuff. But we as an IT department were actually doing nothing around sustainability. So he went to his CIO saying, I want to do something with sustainability within the IT department. And his CIO, Ronald, said, okay, so what do you need? And he said, I don't know. And actually, after 2 weeks, he heard about us doing sustainability workshops. And then we sat around the table. He explained what he wanted. We explained what we did. And he was like, okay, let's see and try, and let's see what happens.
Love it. And now I'm just going to open it up, and because once he said yes, then we all sort of went pale and said, oh, we need to organize this. And then we later did the test sessions and documented it. And for me, it was absolutely marvelous. The outcome, the interaction with the people from Van Oord, our interaction as coaches supporting each other, it was, for me, it was just an amazing experience, and very valuable for Van Oord. I just want to open it up now to see, okay, well, how did you experience that? Meaning, what were the highs and maybe the lows for each of you that during the actual journey? And then I think maybe we can talk about the outcome of it in a bit. Meaning, what did they actually get? So I'll just leave it up to you. Who wants to share what actually happened during the Van Oord conversation?
We had fun. I think that's the first thing. Yeah. But also upfront and during and still after. I think that's something. And I don't know, sometimes you just have a group with people who click and, have the same mindset, and they trigger each other, and it just comes to something. And I think that's exactly what happened with us. How we eventually sat at Van Oort doing our thing we never did. And combined with our flexibility, I think that was pretty amazing.
Yeah, what was also nice to see is these guys came into that room, and they hadn't seen each other for months and months because they were not allowed in the room, or they worked from remotely. So no matter what we did, it was a success already, because they just sat together for a couple of days with a good reason. And that was also one of the downs for me, because I couldn't be there. like some other people, like we did it remotely. But it was so nice to see how people were interacting and just looking for each other and supporting each other. So that really created a productive atmosphere, I think, and that really helped also to get to the end result.
Yeah, you were the perfect fly in the wall. Listening to them while they didn't know.
So the Van Ord people that are listening to this, I'm sure they knew, because he was still on the screen, but on the, towards the end, where we actually leave them alone in the room to prepare their final sustainability scan in order to present it to an executive. And there can be some stress there. But we were monitoring via Vim on how it was going, because we were just next door. So we were not far away, but just having Vim there to say, okay. Because we were like going, oh no, what's going to happen? And the fact that we weren't there, I think, created this space for them to really make it their own, and also, and own it, and then be able to present it, just after that to the CIO who beamed in. So Simon, what is your...
Yeah, no. What I really liked was a couple of people in the workshop at different times said to me how much they appreciated taking the time and having this slightly structured process, but having the time to work on their business. And they spend their whole lives in their business, and they don't have time to think about how to do it differently. And so that for me was a kind of good pointer. And seemed to be much appreciated by everybody. And it was lovely to see in the course of the 5 workshops some attitudes change and some light bulbs go on with different participants.
Yeah, but also mindset. And I think the exercise that you created, I mean, some people who came in, I was like, okay, I'm not sure if they will hop on this train, and and eventually at day 5, especially with the mindset exercise on day 5, all of a sudden those people were like running it. Like, okay, what happens, And I thought that was really amazing to see.
Yeah, so just the shifts of language and interaction that you saw day on day. Because again, as Vim said, it's not 5 days and half days in a row, but we purposely break it up. So there is time for reflection, inspiration to happen, so conversations to happen. But for me, the mix of the 3 working methods. So we force them to document things, we force them to write it down, we force them to discuss things, we force them to decide things very lightly, but it's in a structured way. And we start literally individuals writing down the as is on the day 1, and at the end the group is actually presenting the together. So through this whole thing, we focus on the power of imperfect action. So instead of really knowing the as is, just know it enough, and then go a little bit deeper, and then go down that path. And also the guest speakers that we had. Because while there was the 4 coaches, and essentially I think we can do this with 2 coaches and a support person, but it was really meaningful for us all to be there. And we also had some guest speakers. Maybe Jessica, do you want to share a bit about the guest speakers that we had come in and the impact that they had? Because also that was it took us a while to curate the right speakers for that audience. But I think it really contributed.
Yeah, I think so. We started the first day with Wouter telling about how Cuba became, besides that, had a business with bees, and all of a sudden sitting there with Van Oort and doing a sustainability workshop, which was just to show them, you can do whatever you want as long as you do it. I think that was the outcome of that talk from Wouter. And then at day 2, Diane Zandish, she came in, and she talked a little bit more about specific sustainability. What is it, with some examples, and where can you think of, and that kind of stuff, just to crack their minds and give them some insights of how other businesses are doing it and that kind of stuff. And then at day 3, before the brainstorm, we had Erik Dam coming in, who works for Bayer, which is, you don't think they are sustainable, but they created something that is really sustainable, which is an amazing story. Also being not so sustainable and become more sustainable as a company, which is a great story for Van Oord, seeing how possibly before the brainstorm they can do something with that. They were really excited after that presentation. So I think that was a good kickoff for the brainstorm. And on day 4, Jurjen blew my mind, actually. He was the internal customer from Van Oord. And I think that's pretty critical within the workshops to have an internal customer come in, tell their story about what they're doing and how that department sitting there can contribute to what they're doing. Also around sustainability, they were far ahead with that as well. Not, well, in their minds, not with all the stuff, but, and a connection just, it was just happening. And that was, I think it was also good for them to have that internal client, because some of them didn't know him or didn't know the story or whatsoever. And that triggered even more to eventually on day 5 have the scan how they think it should be. So I think the speakers were really helpful within the process to, trigger and have the outcome that they eventually have.
But also looking back at the order of the speakers, we didn't plan it. At least I didn't. Maybe you did. But the first speaker was about generic principles of sustainability. The second speaker, Erik van Bayer, he had a sort of nice example how to apply sustainability and what the role of IT was in that project. Yeah. And then the third one was someone from inside Van Oord. So that it came closer and closer to them. I think that was one of the strengths of bringing in these inspirational speakers, as we call them.
Yeah,
it wasn't completely by accident, Wim, but it turned out even better than we imagined. So because we know per step what the outcome is. So step 1, we want to get them into the framework, into the method, start the quick scan of where they are, the as is. Day 2 is to really go deep on the as is, so we wanted to inspire them on okay, what could it be? And also, what are you doing now, to start unlocking that? And then day 3, of course, is the turn the corner. So we wanted something really inspirational. And we had the bit of a free-formed, in Miro, the online sort of brainstorming tool to collect, as many ideas as we can. And we also got ideas from the speakers. So we were just piling it on. And then you facilitated the voting and the selection. And then day 4 is to start the simplifying. So they heard from a customer, they prepared their first draft scans, and the customer then critiqued and challenged and championed it. And then, of course, on day 5, they finished their sustainability scan and then present it to the executive. And by that time, they have reframed their mindset. They have their single page scan that they've aligned themselves. They have a prioritized list of projects, also a prioritized list of risks. And so this is basically all the parts that they need to take the next step. So those are the tactical outcomes, meaning, so there's lists of deliverables. I'm curious if you have, each of you, what was the main win that you thought that you saw happen at Van Oord during those 5 days? I know what mine is. I'm just curious, what is the thing that you were maybe so proud of that you helped contribute to that group of people of those 5 days?
Do I jump in?
Go.
For me, it was the energy and the enthusiasm of the participants at the end. When we first started, I kind of recognized from typical corporate situations, a group of people that are in a workshop because they're at work and it's something they have to do, and it was that kind of energy level. And then it kind of went up, and throughout the 5 sessions it kept going up, which was fantastic. And it left me feeling that this is that was enough energy that it's really going to live on. It's not just going to finish there. So that's, for me, that was the best takeaway.
Jessica?
Yeah. That's
Wim,
by the way.
Wim, go for it.
Yeah, what I liked is the change in scope. When we started, the IT people thought, well, the only thing we're talking about is CO2 emissions coming out of our department. And then at the end, they started to see that they could also influence the sustainability targets from business departments, and also believe that they could play a role in helping these departments with achieving these targets. So that was my main win, that they changed focus, they changed scope, and they also believed in it at the end. And they had the confidence to go out there and to talk to business about sustainability rather than just focusing on your own department. So that was, I thought, one of the main gains.
I think for me it was the last day, because I came in with a little bit of a hanging face saying, I'm not sure if today is going to be the day that what they expected to get. That's actually what I think I said in the morning when we came. And I was a little bit, the energy was good and that kind of stuff. And I was like, okay, well, maybe. And it wasn't that I thought that they will come up with something new and have a new proposition or whatsoever, but I just didn't know if it was enough or not. And then eventually, after they gave the presentation to the executive, I was like, okay, they did it. They did it in their way. Why was I afraid? Why was I insecure about it? They just, so I think that was a pretty good, I think that was my moment at the end, being like, okay, this was awesome.
And it was a shame, we were talking about my role as a spy on the wall, that they were preparing that presentation, and that it was such a nice, efficient, focused process. It's sad that you didn't see it. But that's just amazing. Everything came together in that moment. Yeah. So that was the second one. Sorry, Chris.
Yeah.
You're only allowed one. You have to pick now. Which one? Good. No, for me, it was the shift of mindset on who is the customer of the IT department and their role in the business. And I think Jurjen really unlocked that. Although we even asked the CIO to help with the definition, and the CIO came back with a broader definition, meaning we're not here as an internal supplier only to our internal colleagues. We're actually part of the bigger story. And Jurjen, who was showing some of the future vessels and future product ambition, was basically demanding that IT and technology and data are intrinsically interwoven into that product. And I think that was just an amazing aha for all of that. So it's I like the way that the mindset was shifting. So we've also, as a team, have done a bit of persona work, and the last question before we wrap up is, what would you love to see happen with this sustainability sprint method moving forward? And the perfect persona that we talked about is really someone who's intrinsically motivated, inspired by sustainability, and just wants to get on it in pragmatic ways, yet also needs some support. So it needs the content, the method, the alignment. So it doesn't want to go off in isolation and write a paper and convince everyone, but actually get people into a room and experiment a little bit and co-create and co-elevate the whole thing. We're not sure if this is for really top executive teams, but maybe more practical, get it done, groups of managers that have some influence, and that could be in an IT department, or it could be in any other department, or if a sustainability officer is new to the role and they want to have something that would really kickstart the conversation, then this could be a perfect solution for that. So, what's the dream? So, we've got just a couple minutes left. So, like in 60 or 30 or 60 seconds, what would you love to see happen with the sustainability sprint?
Yeah, I hope to have help different departments from different companies to make them more comfortable being a part of the sustainability strategy of that company. I think that's my dream.
Yeah, I would certainly love to do this again many times. I think it's a valuable experience for the participants, and it's a lot of fun. And I would certainly like to help with making businesses more sustainable. And as Jessica said, that's also to do with making people comfortable with sustainability who haven't yet seen that as a key part of their business. But it is increasingly everybody's business, and that's what we're there to help.
Looking at the scan and the sprint, that's only the start of a whole process, and I would love to get involved in the realization of the plans, because the output of the scan is, okay, what are we going to do? But getting involved in the doing itself, in the realization of plans and targets, that would be ideal, I think, to get involved in. And it would also quite rewarding for me to see if all the papers and all the words are being put into practice after the workshop.
Yeah, cool. Mine are, it's sort of maybe two or three things. One, the fact that the simplicity work that has been evolving over the years is now connected to something that can really have impact, on the environment and humanity, I think is awesome. And the fact that it's based on the simplicity approach, people can't really help but also simplify their thinking about their business. So for me, there's a sort of, double payback. And quite frankly, it was just so much fun working with you all. So if we do this more, I think, with you, us, and other kindred spirits of giving first and bringing this out to help people realize that they can actually make a difference in their organization, and it is actually achievable. And there's a lot of people in their organization that are willing to combine forces and make a coalition and get things going. It's just so much fun. So outstanding. We're wrapping up. You can learn more at QHUBA.com, and that's QHUBA.com/sustainability. And there'll be some information about the sustainability scan and the actual sprint, which is the enterprise project process, those 5 half days, which of course includes some preparation days and some follow-up days. So that's, there's basically a whole 7-day cycle there, but it's a start, an incredible journey, and then an end to make sure that things are actually in place to accelerate. So that's QHUBA.com/sustainability. And Jessica, Simon, Wim, this is just fun to hear about this, because we sort of went from nothing to something in just a couple months, and it was awesome. So thank you all.
Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you for listening. Like and subscribe to the podcast on your favorite player, and download the Simplicity Kit from ebullient.com.